And welcome back, everybody, to the Old Gab Box radio show and podcast, all brought to you by our friends at Casa de Campo in the Dominican Republic. It's the best golf resort in the Caribbean. I'll be back down in December when they cut the ribbon on Teeth of the Dog. That's the Pete Dye Gym. Can't wait. In fact, I would like to invite our next guest to come play with me, but Tom Luginbill's too busy. He's football. No golf, Tom, right? I mean, do you ever break away from football? Come on.
So here's the problem, and I really enjoy golf, but there's two problems with golf for me. It takes a long time, and it's expensive.
Yeah.
So when I can't find the time to do it, at the same time, I'm then saving money, and I feel good about myself.
Okay, all right. That rationale, I'll buy it, but I don't buy it, you know? I mean, come on. Anyway, Tom Luginbill, ESPN famous, and is one of the busiest guys on the network. And if you listen to Tom, the reason I love Tom, I not only worked with him years ago, but he still educates me and informs me about stuff that I'm like, really? Wow, I didn't know that. So Tommy, you're doing a great job, and I know you love it, right? I mean, it's ingrained in your soul, the football game, right?
It is, and I'll tell you, I had to make a decision a little over 20 years ago because I grew up the son of a coach. I was a college football player. I played in the Arena League for a few years, went to grad school, then started getting into the coaching profession. And I spent 11 years in the profession on either a coaching or a scouting capacity. And then there came a time where I was like, because I had an older coach tell me one time, he says to me, Doug, he goes, if you can live without this, go do something else. Because it's unstable, it brings heartache, it's difficult on your family. But if you can't live without it, you have to do it because you won't be happy doing anything else. And it's so true. But what I was able to do is find the happy medium. And I made a choice to get out of the coaching side, go into the scouting side, which allowed me the ability to raise children, be around the family. If my wife had to come to me and say, hey, can you take our son to school today? Most of the time I can say yes, you know, and that trade-off of still being in the game and enjoying it and being a part of it, just in a different capacity with the ability. I mean, Doug, I've worked out of my home for almost 21 years now. So I don't have to wake up and put a suit on and go into an office. I get to see my kids out the door, see them come in the door. I get to be a part of their lives. And, you know, when it's the off season, the way scouting works now and the technology that we have, and if I'm not on air, if I have a cell phone and high-speed internet, I could be in the Swiss Alps somewhere,
yes,
and do my entire job. So I can travel with my family. We can go do things. So it's been a great journey.
You know, it is interesting. You mentioned your dad, Al Luginbill, longtime coach, San Diego State, and I got to know Coach in the old NFL Europe.
Yeah.
And he was the Amsterdam Admirals coach, and I worked with Brian Baldinger, and your dad would always have this spread of food in his suite at the hotel in Amsterdam, and Baldy loved it. He goes, Coach Al has all this food. So we'd go up, and he would just talk ball. And I remember vividly, Tom, he goes, you know, guys, I got these two quarterbacks, Kurt Warner and Jake Delhomme. You might not have heard of them, but he goes, I think they're pretty good. And I'm looking back going, pretty good. He had a couple of pretty outstanding NFL quarterbacks, and he knew it, Tom.
He did. And it was interesting, too, because obviously everybody's heard of or has known some form of the story of Kurt Warner's journey.
Yeah.
And the truth and the reality of it is, no matter what the NFL says, my dad went to every single team in the National Football League and said, will you guys sign this guy and then allocate him over to us with no responsibility on their end? They didn't have to keep him. They could have cut him at any time. They could have cut him the first week in training camp if they wanted. All he wanted was his rights. And in order to do that, in those days in NFL Europe, you had a free agent draft, and then you had players that the NFL would send over there, as you know. And nobody would touch him. Nobody. And so finally he goes to Charlie Army and John Becker with the Rams. You know, at this point, Kurt is literally like throwing BBs in arena football. Like, and if you watched him, you're like, holy smokes. I mean, you know, so we're sitting there, and I remember because I was in training camp working with the tight ends in that year. That was 1998. And I remember Kurt saying to me, He goes, man, the game is so slow. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, I got so accustomed to being in that Cracker Jack box. And now with all of the space, everything just looks like it's moving slower. And I never really, I never gave it any thought. And then he said it and it made perfect sense. And the funny thing about those quarterbacks is Jake Delhomme is one of the best practice players I've ever seen. Kurt is not a very good practice player. He's okay, but like, I mean, he's 6.5 feet tall. I mean, not, he's not going to wow you with physical prowess. And then all of a sudden you got into a competitive environment, and in training camp, you would scrimmage the other teams in the league before you'd head over to Europe. Yeah, you get in those scrimmages, and next thing you know, man, the ball is just bing, 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 bing. I mean, it looked like a sprinkler head, ding, 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 ding. And it was crazy how quickly he adapted and how good he was. But it just goes to show you, whether you're playing at any level, anywhere, experience matters. Playing matters. The live bullets going by matter. Like, it's hard. You can't supplement it in any other way. And so what was neat for Jake, so Kurt ends up beating him out, and they have a great year over in Amsterdam. And then Kurt goes, and we all know what happens with the Rams. Yep. Well, Jake comes back the next year and goes to Frankfurt and wins the World Bowl. So then he comes back and he has this unbelievable NFL career. It was really neat. And I get to see Jake every now and then because he's the radio voice of the Panthers. So, but yeah, those were neat times, man. And then, being in the original XFL and now broadcasting what was the XFL and now the UFL brings back a lot of cool memories.
It does. Your dad, he's a personality, as you know. And he was just fun to kind of hang out with. And Baldy was a larger-than-life personality, still is. And I would just sit back and listen to those guys tell war stories and football stories, and it was priceless. Neat. It really, really was. All right, I want to tell our listeners and those viewing on YouTube, Tom keeps in good shape. He could still play. I don't know if he still has eligibility or not, but Tom Luginbill could still throw the football.
Hey, I did go to junior college. So
there you go.
I'm entitled 2 years.
We're going to get into.
Got to give me 2 years back.
You and Diego. Yeah, we'll get into that. Georgia Tech beats Clemson Saturday. You're a Georgia Tech guy. And I know you're an ESPN guy. You got to, play the politics. But weren't you giving it a little fist pump when the field goal went in? Because that was an incredible game, Tom.
It was an unbelievable game. And, I've known Brent Key for a long, long time. And, we both played for George O'Leary. He was in a prison sentence under George O'Leary for several years. I don't know how he did it for as long as he did. I told him, I said, you've worked for George O'Leary and Nick Saban. I said, you deserve sainthood. But he... I think it was really neat, and for people who've been affiliated with that program, to see where they were 5 years ago and to see how bad it had gotten quickly. And I understand that there was COVID and there were a bunch of different things that were not under people's control. And to see how quickly he has turned that thing around. And they just like, when you hear coaches or people talk about the game of football, blocking, tackling, discipline, fundamentals, toughness, like all of the different phrases you use to describe the game being played the right way, to me, that's Georgia Tech right now. And they just play the game. They don't beat themselves. They're tough. They're physical. They can run the ball. The quarterback can carry the entire team on his back. Obviously, they've made really good choices in the transfer portal in rebuilding that roster. But, people talk about identity and they talk about culture and they talk about locker room chemistry. And I understand it can become overly cliched. They actually embody that. Like, they really do. So that was kind of a neat moment because, you're going up against the Goliath that is Clemson for the last 15, 16, 17 years. And I thought it was really, really impressive. And at the end, to be so organized and a well-oiled machine, to know the clock's running down, have everybody get on. Nobody panicked. Nobody was in a hurry. It was a little slight urgency. You got lined up and it was like it was no big deal. You would have acted like you would have thought they had a minute left. It was crazy.
Well, and the announcers were talking about, hey, we saw this the day before they were practicing, running teams on, the kicking team, and it worked out great. And I hate putting the pressure on a kicker, especially in college, but he drilled it, and he'll go down in history.
It looked like
now.
your 7-iron, Doug.
Yeah, absolutely. I was very proud of it. Turned just a little bit like my 7-iron.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
It looked like it was going to go, and they went boom.
That's called a draw, just a little bit, a baby draw. Baby draw. Hey, speaking of Clemson, though, and Dabo and I go way back, I gave him the High School Football Player of the Week award back when he was in high school at Pelham High School. And we even played men's basketball, a men's league basketball together, and he was hell on wheels, let me tell you. Talk about a guy flying the elbows. But anyway, I digress. Yesterday has his press conference, and of course, he's Dabo. There's some negative pub here and there. They've lost a couple of games. Hey, if you want somebody else, hey, blah, blah, blah. That's just Dabo being Dabo, right?
I mean, have we seen it any other way?
No, we haven't.
I mean, he's going to voice his opinion. He's going to say what he feels. You may not like it. You may not agree with it, but you at least know where he stands at all times.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the black and white side of that, I can respect and appreciate. Listen, the problem is the job that those guys do is so incredibly difficult. And it's most difficult when you sustain success to the level they have for the period of time that they have. And it becomes human nature for everybody around the program to be conditioned to think, oh, it's easy. We're going to be like this all the time. And they get spoiled, right? And then when things don't go well, or you lose a game, or you play poorly, it becomes so over magnified because of the success you've had. You become a victim of your own success.
Yeah.
And, listen, are they anywhere near what they should be or what was expected? Absolutely not. I can't figure out what's wrong with them. Cade Klubnik looks like the Cade Klubnik that played in 2023.
Yeah.
Indecisive, lacks anticipation, holds onto the ball, not confident, isn't seeing it, no urgency. And it's like, what is going on? Where did this come from? Because he made such a big leap last year, right? And so you watch them unfold, and then you get basically what on paper is the most returning experience in all of college football. In fact, it's not even close. And they go out and they play the way that they've played, and it's a shame if you're a Clemson fan.
Yeah, well, come on, Dabo. He's my guy, Coach McCorvey's still on the staff there at Clemson.
Yeah.
So, and he goes way back with Coach Stallings. So anyway, I love my Clemson. All right, Tom, I got to ask you this because this was interesting. I was on a show the other day, and I thought I'd caused an earthquake when they asked me who the best team in the Southeastern Conference is right now. I guess they were expecting me to throw out Auburn or Oklahoma or Georgia, which are all legitimate, right?
Yeah.
But what about Missouri, Tom? I mean, Missouri looks pretty dark. I mean, I know we're 3 weeks in. We got a long way to go. Injuries play a factor, et cetera, et cetera. But their quarterback, that running back, the transfer, the offensive line looks good, Tom. Am I crazy to think that Missouri is upper echelon and arguably the best team in the league right now?
I think they're in the top third of the league. I don't think there's any question about that. And, it's interesting. You talk about injuries. Well, they had an injury that was a blessing in disguise. You feel terrible for Sam Horn, but now you've got this Bo Pribula guy who comes over from Penn State, and you're looking at him going, oh, he's a handful, right? So it makes their offense more dynamic because he's just always a constant threat with his legs, kind of like John Mateer is at Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
You could make an argument, because I remember I did their spring game. Me, Taylor Zarzer, and Greg McElroy did their spring game when Coach Drink was coming off of the 5-7 season. They had just signed Luther Burden. They did not know who their quarterback was going to be. And I'm not going to lie to you. We saw that team in spring ball. We go, this team's got no shot. I mean, and I'm going, they're going to get rid of him. He's going to be gone. There's no way. And then the next thing you know, he goes out and rips off 10 wins, right? And then he does it again. And then I had the Fiesta Bowl when they beat Ohio State. Right. And so the job that they have done there has been simply remarkable. And I do think that they're one of the top. And you know what? It's crazy that we're sitting here talking about this. Who's playing better football than Vandy right now?
My goodness.
What is, and maybe it's not, are we sitting here saying that they have Georgia's talent? No. Do they have Alabama's talent? No. But, we talked about Georgia Tech playing the game the right way. Tough, physical, don't beat themselves, not heavily penalized, don't turn the ball over. Like them in Missouri are doing it like you'd put on a clinic.
Yeah, and what Vandy did to South Carolina, Tom, and I was watching that game, and my kid's an old offensive lineman, so I kind of focus on the big kids. Vanderbilt's got some tackles now. They don't take it from anybody. I mean, they grab people and they throw them down. I mean, they move people back. Vanderbilt hasn't had an offensive line that, at least in my opinion, that has looked like that. I mean, they were good last year, but these guys, they're stout, Tom. You're right. Vanderbilt's, they're legit.
And that defensive front for South Carolina, those aren't chumps playing over there.
Right.
And listen, I mean, obviously, Lenore Sellers going out of the game was a tremendous gift because it changes how you defend South Carolina because you're not having to worry about the constant chaos of that guy ripping one off. But yeah, I mean, Vanny's doing a nice job. How about Clark Lee, though? Like, how is, you got all of these, you could make an argument that it might be the most difficult academic job because of the conference affiliation.
Yeah, I
right?
agree. Yeah.
That there is in college football. And for them to do what they've done, I mean, hell, their quarterback's collecting Social Security. How old is he now? I mean, Diego.
And according to his lawyers, he may be back for another year, the 7th year.
I know it. But you know what's there? When we talk about the SEC and the strength and the top teams and this and that, like, you're still going to have your teams like a Georgia or an Alabama or an LSU, some of these teams that are primarily going to be high school based in their recruiting efforts because they're always going to have access to the best players. And then everybody else is trying to figure it out after the fact. Well, what we've now done with the transactional nature of the sport is we've dispersed the talent everywhere. So it's hard to just be so much better than everybody else, right?
Yeah.
The gap has closed to some degree because of the incoming and outgoing players. We used to say in this sport, well, a guy gets a new job and, you can't wave a magic wand and all of a sudden turn it around overnight. Now you kind of can.
Now you can.
If you make the right choices. That's why, I did a North Carolina game 2 weeks ago, and I'm getting so irked with the whole, they got 70 new players.
You're right.
They picked those 70 new players. That wasn't inherited. That wasn't like the old days where you inherit a 3-9 team and the only new guys are the incoming class you brought in and everybody else you're stuck with.
Right.
So don't give me no excuses about 70. They handpicked those guys. And so has everybody else who's had to do it. And it ain't easy.
And they got drilled in that TCU game, needless to say. Hey, tell me this now. And I thought this was interesting. Coach Urban Meyer was on, I think, with Colin Cowherd the other day. And this was interesting, Tom, because he said when he left from Florida to Ohio State, and he and his wife would, you'd play this game or that game, and he said they were blown away about the difference between the SEC and the Big Ten, the excitement level, what went on pregame outside the stadium, talent level, energy in the stadium. But he said that's changed. And he said the upper echelon of the Big Ten, he believes, is actually better now than the upper echelon of the Southeastern Conference. And then Coach Saban on game day a couple of weeks ago, he said, you know what? He feels the NIL money is stronger in the upper part of the Big Ten compared to the SEC, which he feels gives the Big Ten an advantage. I mean, Tom, are we seeing a power shift? Is that what we're visualizing right now? I'm not talking about the entire conference.
Right.
I'm talking about the top against the top, because the SEC was always thought of as the best.
Well, yes, we may be, but really what it comes down to is decisions. Do you want to be elite?
Right.
In college football? Do you want your program to be the front porch of your university? And there's some programs that aren't, like UCLA has no interest in doing that.
Yeah.
UCLA has a terrible job right now.
Right.
Terrible job. And it's for that reason. So if a Penn State or an Ohio State or a Michigan, whoever else you may want to name out, Illinois is starting. If you sit there and say, okay, we're going to push all of our chips to the table and football is going to drive the bus of our university. And when that new wing gets built on the library and those new dormitories go up, guess why? Because football now is our greatest revenue producer. So what happens? Your applications for enrollment rapidly increase. Your enrollment increases. It transforms the commerce of your community and your town. And a lot of these places are in smaller places, not all of them, but many of them, particularly in the SEC. It all matters. And the best example of that, of the last 20 years, is Clemson. Clemson made a decision institutionally from the top down, unapologetically. This is what we're doing. If you don't like it, there's the door. And in doing so, they've transformed not just their university, they've transformed the entire community. So it's all about what you're willing to do, right? And I agree with Coach Saban. I agree with Urban Meyer in that regard. It all comes down to your board of trustees, your board of directors, your president, your AD. Do you have alignment top down?
It's fascinating to me. It really is. I mean, obviously, this isn't anything new. I mean, the top programs have always put more into the football program, especially in the South. We know that. But it's just, I don't know. It seems to me that there's just a power shift right now. The people in the SEC don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear the fact that maybe they're playing a little catch up in some areas.
Well, I'll say this too. What I would question or counter with this discussion is, like last year, for example, there were 2 or 3 teams in the Big Ten that were really good. Everybody else stunk. Like the top to bottom competitive balance of the league is not what the SEC is.
Agreed.
Like Northwestern's not Vanderbilt right now. Okay. Right. And, you have a fledgling Nebraska program that's, they're just trying to figure out a way how to get to 8 wins. Right. You got your traditional Iowas and, even Wisconsin's down. But like Illinois is rising and elevating. And I guarantee you, I bet if you went and you started digging around and saying, well, what's behind all of this? There's boosters, there's somebody that made a decision. Hey guys, we're either going to be in line with what's happening in college football or we're going to fall to the basement, and we ain't falling to the basement.
And it has all kind of culminated in the fact, it is funny, Tom, and of course you've been at it a long time. I've been at it longer than you have. And, everybody's saying, oh gosh, the future of the game is in peril. I mean, we're headed down a terrible road. But in reality, Tom, more people are watching than ever before. Ratings are incredible. This Saturday, these matchups, I mean, it's one ratings game after another.
Yeah.
Stadiums are still selling out 100,000 people. So I don't know. It seems like the game is actually evolving into a pretty good spot.
People don't like the state of the sport. They love the sport.
And there you go.
Right. And I get it. I mean, if you ran the National Football League this way, it would come crumbling to the ground in 12 months. Right. If Patrick Mahomes just decided that after every Super Bowl, he's going to go throw himself out there on the market and there was nothing to stop him from doing it. Or if an NFL team has been bounced out of the playoff race with 6 games to go, does anybody in the NFL go up? I'm not playing anymore. I'm out.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Like, I mean, I despise the current state of it too, but I do think that it is sustainable if you come up with, first of all, we got to stop acting like these kids aren't employees.
Yeah, of course.
And then that's the only thing that's also going to keep you out of court, right? Well, but if you're going to do that and you're going to treat them like employees, then you're going to have a collective bargaining agreement. You're going to have something where you come to both sides. And you know what? Whatever contract you sign, that's what you adhere to. And you don't get to sit out bowl games. You don't get to, just leave your team whenever you want. I mean, what's going to stop anybody at Virginia Tech and UCLA right now, if they wanted to, from walking out the door and they can't field a team next week? Is that how this thing is supposed to work? No.
But it could happen.
It could happen. And it will at some point. Somebody will do it.
Well,
somebody's going to gather guys in their locker room. They're going to go, you know what, guys? We could transform this entire sport in the blink of an eye, and we ain't playing.
That's interesting.
That's not
obvious.
Good.
And we're seeing a little bit of that with bowl games, the kind of the lower level bowl games, right? And we're getting to a point where some bowl games can't happen. It's already happened because you can't field a team.
It's unbelievable.
Which is crazy. All right, Tommy, 2 more questions before I let you go because you're the busiest man in college football. You obviously did the United Football League for ABC, and this Brandon Aubrey kid who, I'm in Birmingham still, and he was the Birmingham Stallions kicker, professional soccer player. He was going to do whatever, and his wife said, give it a shot. You're a good kicker, give it a shot. He's the best kicker in the National Football League. I mean, Tom, to me, that is a story that needs more publicity. What he did last week, calmly just booting a 64-yarder for the winner. I mean, it could have gone 70 yards, Tom. That is an amazing story what this young man is doing. And you got to know him. I mean, he was basically a walk-on for the Birmingham Stallions.
Yep. And I think the thing that's interesting about those guys, I think they're wired different. Like, we always make fun of kickers in football and this and that and how they practice and what they do and, all this and that. But I don't know if it's almost like he doesn't know he doesn't know. So, like, don't talk to him. Don't discuss the game with him. Leave him alone. Because I don't think his brain is wired to think like a football player and the pressure that comes with it. I think he's just going out there, like I said, he don't know. He's just going, I got a kick now? Okay. Right? It's strange. Nothing phases him. And really weird.
And he's got that little bitty soccer shoe on. I don't know why other kickers don't use it, but...
The baby shoe.
It's working.
It is.
I've never seen a kicker like that. All right, before I let you go, and I got to tell our viewers and listeners, Tom and I, years ago, ESPN assigned us to this national high school game on Friday nights. And, I remember you and I would talk like, is this legit? Is this going to work? And obviously you were heavy into recruiting and it was working great for you. Tom, the other day in the garage, I'm cleaning stuff out and I find this old New York Times newspaper article. And you and I, there's a picture of us in the booth. And I look back and I think, we did a game in New Jersey with Chris Sims. Phil was in the stands. We did a game with Steven Garcia in Florida, who later played for Steve Spurrier, South Carolina, and they beat Alabama. That was the greatest game Steven ever did.
Yep.
We did a game at De La Salle out in San Francisco, who, the preeminent high school football program. And they had like 4 kids that had already signed with Notre Dame, and you were excited about all these kids. And Joe Montana's kid was a backup quarterback who didn't play, by the way. That was so much fun, Tom. And I look back and I really appreciate you because you were so knowledgeable at the time. And you were so excited about these high school kids who, many of them ended up having pretty good careers.
That's what's been so neat about the last 20 years is, shortly after that, we developed the Under Armour All-American game.
Yes.
We select the roster for all that.
And
you sit there and you start to look back at the games you broadcasted in high school, who was on those teams. And then you look at some of those rosters we had, Matt Barkley.
Yes.
Jadeveon Clowney.
Yes.
Manti Te'o, E.J. Manuel, Landry Jones. I could go all of these guys that went on to be high-profile, prominent college football players. And then you start to watch the draft, and you're like, I started watching tape on that kid when he was 15 years old, right? And how that whole thing has just kind of rolled on. And now, like, high school football is bigger than it's ever been. It's bigger on TV. It's bigger locally. There are now national rankings that a lot of people, like, really, truly follow from several different publications. It's amazing what it's become. But I will say this, Doug, when we used to do those games, because I was brand spanking. I was right out of the package as a broadcaster. I had been in coaching for 11 years. I knew what I was doing. And later on, after we stopped working together, Adam Amin got assigned with me. It was his first package.
A great announcer, by the way, yeah.
Announcer. It was his first package. And I remember telling him, I said, you, in your mind or your ego, you may say, man, this sucks, blah, 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 this and that. We're doing a high school game. I said, but understand this. We're going to do a high school game. And that coach who's not used to doing meetings with the broadcasters, that coach is going to not really tell you anything. You're going to ask him who the return men are, and he's going to say number 88 and 31, and then we're going to get up in the booth, and it's number 25 and 26. And nothing's going to go right, and it's going to be chaos. Half the two deeps are not going to be correct, and you are going to become such a better broadcaster because you did this package.
Yeah.
And that, for me, was how I looked at it. I was like, okay, I'm scrambling. We got, when we do college games, right? You got game notes, you got SIDs.
Big booths.
Yeah, big booths. You got all the monitors. You're doing this and that, man. You're doing that thing, man. You're flying blind.
Yes, you are.
It is a great. I think it was great for me, other young broadcasters, to start out doing that because it's kind of the hardest version of what we do.
It was so much fun. And, you're right, because I remember we would do a high school game and there'd be a star player and there's like, where is he? And it's like, you hear, well, he changed his jersey right before kickoff because he spilled something on his other jersey. I'm like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, what are you doing? Oh, goodness.
And the people in the truck are like, he changed jerseys. What?
Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Hey, listen, I appreciate it, my friend. I'll let you go and keep up the good work, Tommy. Seriously, I've always considered you a great friend. And you're a heck of a broadcaster, man. Keep up the good work.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you reaching out to me last night. And the fact that you said, I don't know if you remember me, really hurt my feelings.
Well, I've gone the golf realm, right?
I know you have.
And,
I know you have. And I watch you.
And if you ever need a ticket to the golf tournament, let me know.
I will. I'll absolutely do that.
And if you need a golf lesson, okay, I can help you with that, but we'll need a little time,
Got it. Yeah, a lot of time for my golf game.
Tommy, take care, my friend. Good to hear.
Thanks, man.
Good
to see you, Doc.
Cheers.
All right.